की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नाष्टप्रयेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी. We thank you all for coming for today's Bhagavatam class. Today we'll be discussing from Canto 4, Chapter 12, verse 33. Iti vya, vya, vyavasitam tasya. Iti vyavasitam tasya. Vyavasaya surottamo. Darshavam asaturdevim. Puroyanena gacchatim. Iti vyavasitam tasya. Vyavasaya surottamo. Darshayam asaturdevim. Puroyanena gacchatim. Iti vyavasitam tasya. Vyavasaya surottamo. Darshayam asaturdevim. Puroyanena gacchatim. Iti vyavasitam tasya. Vyavasayam surattamo. Darshayam asaturdevim. Puroyanena gacchatim. Iti vyavasitam tasya. Vyavasaya surottamam. Darshayam asaturdevim. Puroyanena gacchatim. Mataji's want to try? Iti vyavasitam tasya. Vyavasaya surottamo. Darshayam asaturdevim. Puroyanena gacchatim. Thank you. Synonyms. Iti, thus. Vyavasitam, contemplation. Tasya, of Dhruva. Vyavasaya, understanding. Sura Uttamo, the two chief associates. Darshayam asatu, showed to him. Devim, exalted Suniti. Pura, before. Yanena, by airplane. Gacchatim, going forward. Translation. The great associates of Vaikuntha Loka, Nanda and Sunanda, could understand the mind of Dhruva Maharaj, and thus they showed him that his mother Suniti was going forward in another plane. Purport. This incident proves that the Siksha or Diksha Guru, who has a disciple who strongly executes devotional service, like Dhruva Maharaj, can be carried by the disciple even though the instructor is not as advanced. Although Suniti was an instructor to Dhruva Maharaj, she could not go to the forest because she was a woman, nor could she execute austerities and penances as Dhruva Maharaj did. Still, Dhruva Maharaj was able to take his mother with him. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj also delivered his atheistic father, Hiranyakashipu. The conclusion is that disciple or an offspring who is very strong devotee can carry with him to Vaikuntha either his father, mother, or Shiksha or Diksha Guru. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura used to say, if I could perfectly deliver even one soul back home, back to Godhead, I would think my mission of propagating Krishna consciousness to be successful. The Krishna consciousness movement is spreading now all over the world, and sometimes I think that even though I am crippled in many ways, if one of my disciples become as strong as Dhruva Maharaj, then he will be able to carry me with him to Vaikuntha Loka. Srila Prabhupada translation and purport ki Jai. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we've been discussing about Dhruva Maharaj going back home, back to Godhead. We know that he is very grateful son. He appreciates what his mother has done to him, and he wants to take his mother also back when he's going back home, back to Godhead. So we all know that one who introduces Krishna consciousness to us is the greatest well-wisher. He is one of the best well-wisher for us. So Srila Prabhupada is such a well-wisher for the whole world because he single-handedly spread Krishna consciousness all around the world. And we know that we owe him a lot, right? Can we repay the debt that whatever he is given to us, can we repay it in any form? It's very hard, right? So basically we are trying our best, but there are facilities that we can repay is very limited. So how do we repay that debt that we are not able to repay? The only way that we can repay the debt is by giving ourselves to Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada will be pleased. So Srila Prabhupada, even though he says in this purport that he is crippled, one of his disciples should take him back to Vaikuntha Loka, but actually we can see that without there being empowerment, one cannot spread Krishna consciousness, right? So Srila Prabhupada is empowered that he is able to deliver all so many fallen souls of the whole world. So we should, from this verse, we should understand it's not Prabhupada who needs deliverance by his disciple, but it is we who are getting trained under his efficiency or his efficient leadership, or being a efficient guru, that he is training us to go back home, back to Godhead. It is by his divinity, by his purity, by his compassion, by his love, that he's training us to go back home, back to Godhead. So we as disciples have faced some sort of contamination, right? We might say, oh, my guru is the best, or we might say, oh, why isn't women not being Diksha gurus? So many confusions with guru being, the point of discussion. But what are we doing when we think like, we are causing more contamination, we are causing, rather than spreading Krishna consciousness, we are causing more contamination amongst devotees by thinking in such ways. So what we have to do is we have to train ourselves to become like Dhruva Maharaj. So when we see, we don't have to bring such confusions. People who are elevated will automatically take up the point that the preaching is the essence. They will preach Krishna consciousness. They will not cause any confusion. So Mother Suniti was also like that. So she naturally instructed her son Dhruva to go to the forest to see the Lord. And Dhruva, being a very open-minded son, he accepted the instructions of his mother, and he went to the forest to in search of Lord. So in following the instructions of his mum, who is a Siksha Guru, we see that Dhruva actually found a Diksha Guru, and by following the instructions of Diksha Guru, he was able to attain his goal. So what was his goal? He wanted to see Krishna face to face. He was able to see Krishna face to face. So Srila Prabhupada mentions that the conclusion of this verse is that it could be an offspring or it could be a disciple. If the person is very strongly following Krishna consciousness, then one might be able to carry with him to Vaikuntha Loka even his mom or a dad or Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru. Now the point comes, okay, who is a Siksha Guru? Who is a Diksha Guru? So Siksha Guru is somebody who is actually helping us understand Krishna. Anyone who helps us go forward in the path of Krishna consciousness can be a Siksha Guru. It could be one to many. And Shiksha Guru, there will be one prominent Shiksha Guru who is actually helping us go ahead in Krishna consciousness. But a Diksha Guru can be only one. So it is like this Guru, Diksha Guru, will initiate one in the Sampradaya, and the relationship that we have with the Diksha Guru is eternal. And the responsibility of that Diksha Guru is to take us home back to Godhead. So the Diksha Guru will be emphasizing us on taking the path very seriously. He'll give instructions according to our nature, according to where we are. He'll give instructions, and as a disciple, it will be our responsibility to follow that instructions, taking it as a heart and soul and progressing in a path to Krishna consciousness. So that is the difference between a Shiksha Guru and a Diksha Guru. What should be the nature of a disciple? A disciple should be a representative of a spiritual master or a spiritual father. So disciple should actually cultivate the quality of Krishna. Because why? Because Krishna is our supreme father. So just like how we have a spiritual master, we try to imbibe the qualities of a spiritual master, we are also taking up some qualities of Krishna, and we are following it in our day-to-day life. So it shouldn't be like imitating, right? We should try and absorb that good qualities slowly, little by little. So what are the qualities that we are trying to develop? So have we thought about the qualities that we are trying to develop while we are in Krishna consciousness? Could you name something? Would you like to say, okay, what would be that quality that you are thinking of developing? Any answer? Compassion, very nice. Mataji, Prabhu. Selflessness, awesome. Prabhu. Kindness, excellent. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so like this, each one of us are trying to develop one or the other quality of Krishna. Yeah, so when we develop or when we practice something constantly, it shows in us, right? So if we are eating, when we constantly eat, we our face gets lit up, uh, we actually grow in size. So it's because, so when we do something, we should actually show it, right? When we practice music, let's say, or when we practice any art, so we will show it, right? So we become good at it. So similarly, if you want to practice constantly those good qualities like kindness, compassion, selflessness, being diplomat, so many good qualities that we can find in Krishna, right? So if we imbibe them in our day-to-day life and slowly and steadily progress, then we one day we can become like a pure soul, like a pure devotee. So that's why Prabhupada emphasizes on how a disciple should develop such qualities. But what on the other side, what we see, like practically seeing, like one time you might find that the devotees are very good. They are doing so much service. They're being very compassionate, kind. But on the other side, they also have their bad qualities. Their anarthas. They complain about somebody offending some devotees, and they complain like, I got offended, so what am I supposed to do? So do you think that they should not they should leave Krishna consciousness? No, right? They still continue to practice, and we should not be like, okay, somebody offended me, I won't go to sleep today. It should not be like somebody offended me, so I'm going out of Krishna consciousness. It should be like, so I mean, if you apply that in Krishna consciousness, it's the same way everywhere. So wherever we go, we are going to find people who are going to annoy us, who are going to irritate us. So we cannot say, okay, I'm leaving this office. How many offices will we change? How many houses will we change if that's the situation? So we have to develop that quality of tolerance, of accepting people as they are, and progressing in Krishna consciousness. So what is it that is actually wanting us to find fault in others? That's what we need to think about. We need to find, okay, it is something in me that is not allowing me to agree to what that other person is saying, tolerate that other person. What is it? It's usually enviousness. So Prabhupada, or in many lectures we would have heard, if we have to reduce the enviousness that we have towards somebody, then we start seeing the good in them. There might be so many faults in people, but we try to see at least one good. You can imagine, somebody whom you hate in your life, and you can think, okay, what is it that I like in this person? Mm, maybe the person is not very friendly, maybe the person is snobbish, but that there might be some good quality. Maybe the person offers some help to us at some time. Maybe that good quality we can pick. So what it does is that we finding that good quality in one will actually become an opportunity for us to make friends with this person at some point. Once we give a little scope, right? Then we okay, one good quality we identified. Okay, next month maybe another good quality we identify in that person. So who knows? At some point we'll have that person whom we hated the most as the best person or the best friend in our life. Once I was asking one Maharaj who visited here, when I used to have a lot of frictions with devotees, I was like, Maharaj, so what should I do? I'm facing a lot of problems. I have, um, you know, I find like there's lots of frictions between devotees. So Maharaj gave an example. He was like, devotees are like a bag of rocks, and as we associate with each other, we become pebbles. He didn't say, oh, you're good, others are bad, or others are good, you're bad. He just said, devotees are like pebbles of rocks. So when rocks rub against each other, what happens? Friction happens. So, but as we rub against each other, rub and rub and rub, what happens? We become pebbles. So he didn't say stop associating with devotees because you're having problem. He said somehow manage, be with the friction. You have to somehow enjoy it. And then finally, all that hard work will reap its benefits. Right? So that is how we become non-envious, we become free of anarthas slowly and steadily. So Srila Prabhupada is looking for again disciples who would strongly execute devotional service like Dhruva Maharaj. Why? Because that disciple can carry even an instructor or a guru who is not so advanced back home, back to Godhead. So if we train ourselves to become such strong devotees, we'll be able to take even our guru back home, back to Godhead. There is arrangements made in our tradition like that. So here in this verse we see Mother Suniti didn't go to the forest. She didn't perform any austerities as Dhruva did. But what do we see? We see that it's not that just because Suniti didn't go to the forest, not like any other woman does not perform any austerities. No, it's not like that. For her designated position, she didn't take up any austerities. But we see, Tulsi Maharani, who had done so much austerities for thousands of years just to see Krishna face to face. We also see Devaki and Vasudev and Devaki perform austerities for about 40,000 years. What did they eat? They eat just the leaves which were dropping off the trees, not even fresh leaves of fruits and flowers. They were eating just dry leaves for 40,000 years. So it is not that women don't perform austerities, they do, but it is not there. In the system, it is not that destined that they have to do austerities. So Dhruva Maharaj took up the austerities, he went to the forest, he did pious activities and he got a glance. So, for example, if we have to say, there is Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras in our society. But if we have to perform yajnas, whom do we call? Brahmana. Why Brahmana? Because he knows the nitty-gritties to perform the yajnas. He's been doing this for years. Does it mean a Kshatriya or a Vaishya don't perform any austerities or don't perform any yajna? They do perform yajna, but they have their limitations. Their strength is keeping people protected. So protecting of the people or doing business for Vaishyas is their main goal. So we go to Brahmana for getting the job done. It is their designated service. Even though a Kshatriya or a Vaishya may have the Brahman thread and they might know the mantras, but we go only to the Brahmanas to perform yajnas. So like that, women can also perform austerities more severe than any man, but in the system, it is meant only for man. So we also saw the example of Tulsi Devi, and we saw Devaki and Vasudeva performing austerities, and how they were able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. And Devaki and Vasudeva actually got to actually bear Krishna as their son. So what do we see from these things? We see that Krishna consciousness shouldn't be taken lightly, because to have darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, people have undergone so much austerities. But what are we doing? In the last 1 month, I might have been doing Kartik. I'm like, oh my God, I did so much service. I did so much austerity. But actually, when we compare ourselves to what austerities have been performed by great personalities, then we feel so small, right? So, Dhruva Maharaj here also was a Brahmana in his previous life. A strong Brahmana, in the course of preaching, he went to a householder. He saw that, oh, householders have lot of good luxuries, comfort, so he got attracted. So that small desire in him, Krishna had seen, and he didn't let him go back to Godhead. So instead, he gave him the crown, and in his next birth, he was a prince. So we have to be very watchful on what desires we are cultivating. Maybe the desires might allow us to come back on our next birth to be in this, to have this material life again, and not help us go back to Godhead. So, in order for us to cultivate that strength, our determination, how does spiritual master help us? So, we see that Dhruva Maharaj has performed so many austerities. He was able to get darshan. So, our spiritual masters are also training us slowly and steadily to get to perfection. So, what do they do for that? Our spiritual masters sometimes say, oh, why don't you go to Vrindavan for Kartik month? Do parikrama, do some austerities. Our spiritual masters might say, okay, why don't you do Bhishma Panchaka? The last 5 days of Kartik, eat just fruits and roots. Sometimes they might say, why don't you do extra rounds of chanting? Why don't you do Tulsi Parikrama? Why don't you chant Narsimha Kavach? And like that, why don't you follow Chaturmasya? Some austerity, they would encourage us to take it up. Something that we can do in our day-to-day basis, not something which we cannot, right? So we are able to follow. So one might be wondering, why are they offering so much austerities? Why should we do all this? I was also wondering why. So the scripture says, by taking up such austerities, we develop determination. We develop determination, rightly said. So by taking that strength, we are able to become strong in our bhakti. So we are able to progress, we are able to get rid of the anarthas. So that strength comes from all these austerities. Sometimes we might say, oh, there is too many problems. I can't face devotees. They are being envious. They are causing too much trouble. I want to go out of Krishna consciousness. But is it that Krishna consciousness which is giving you problem, or is it that envious nature in you which is giving you the problem? It's mostly the mind sometimes, right? Not sometimes. Always it's the mind. The mind actually creates all these thoughts of nonsensical thoughts. It can stop us from following Krishna consciousness. So once our strength lies in whatever we are following, if we are determined to follow Krishna consciousness, then nothing can stop us from following Krishna consciousness. So that Dhrida Vrita should be there. The mind should be steady and firm. So we need strong determination in Krishna consciousness. Why? Because Krishna consciousness is not easy. Radhanath Maharaj, in one of the lectures, he says, Bhakti is not easy. We will face problems day in and day out. Why shouldn't Bhakti be easy? Because then anybody can take up Krishna consciousness, right? If it becomes easy, then it is like making us lazy. For lazy people, anything should be easy. But for devotees, but for sincere practitioners, it has to be challenging. Then we will overcome one challenge after the other, one challenge after the other. When we undergo this austerity, then we become strong in our faith towards progressing towards our goal. So that is why we perform austerities. And Dhrumaraj example is quoted here, that how unshaken he was in Krishna consciousness, and he didn't let any distraction come in between him and Krishna when he was doing his mantra. So we are also taking an instruction from him not to let any of others anarthas or our anarthas go in between progressing towards Krishna consciousness. So there's a verse that is quoted by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 9, it's verse 13. It says, it's from the chapter Most Confidential Knowledge. Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashritaha. So Krishna says these great souls are under the protection of my divine nature. So why are we following gurus? Because these gurus are under the influence of Krishna's divine nature. So while we follow divinity, we will also obtain divinity. And the great souls function within his divine energy. So we should listen to them, not bother about their consequences. Once what happened, one Mataji, she had 3 kids. She was going through a tough time, and when she met her spiritual master instructed her to go and stay in Murvilamba farm. So she discussed with me like, oh Mataji, my spiritual master, I'm in the city, I'm in Sydney, I have 3 children, I'm running a family here, but my Guru Maharaj is instructing me to go and stay in the farm. Then I also felt like, if spiritual master is saying something, then there must be something in it. So I told Mataji, why don't you give it a try? You know, is it something, is it possible that you can go? She was like, yeah, I can. Yeah, maybe I should go. She just decided, and she went to Murvalamba. After a couple of months, she found that her husband had left her and she had to stay by herself. Since she was in the farm, the devotees in the farm were very caring, and she got whatever support she needed to take care of her children being in the farm. So sometimes the divine energy through the spiritual master comes and instructs us to take up something, to follow something, and if we do take it, absorb it in our life, then it helps us to remain same, to remain in Krishna consciousness. um, if she had been in the city somewhere, not having close association with temple devotees, then she might have freaked out during those tough situations. So this situation actually proves that spiritual, whatever guidance comes from Mahatmas, we just follow it, and in that way we get nourished, we enjoy the process, and we progress in Krishna consciousness. Another example which is being quoted is, Bilumanga Thakura. His girlfriend was a prostitute. She was just doing her profession. But this guy, being so attracted to this lady, he went very often to satisfy himself. But one day, what this lady taught him is that instead of showing so much attraction towards this flesh and bones, why don't you show that 1% of that attachment towards Krishna? So that opened Billu Mangal Thakur's eyes, and she felt and he felt like, what have I been doing for so many years? What is it? I've been behind some cheap things when not being focusing on Krishna. That purity in her words actually opened the eyes of Billu Mangal Thakur. So what he did, he then realized his mistake. He gets initiated. He start to go towards Krishna, and on the way to Vrindavan, also it was not that somebody had planted a seed of bhakti, then there'll be no more issues in the path of bhakti. No, it's not like that. Everywhere we go, there will be some sort of challenge or the other. How did he overcome? What happened in his journey? Billu Mangal Thakur actually, while he was walking towards the Vrindavan on his journey back to Krishna, so he was like, he saw that one lady was taking bath in the water. Again, he got attracted. This lady thought, he's a sage. He's supposed to be, pure. Why is he falling down by seeing me? So, what did she do? She went to her husband and she said, like, this guy is behind me. Uh, Even though he was trying to go towards Krishna, but something came in between, he got distracted. And what did this couple do? So, this husband says, okay, if that is the wish of the sage, go and satisfy him. By seeing these couples acting like this, Bilva Mangal Thakur was very ashamed. Then he was like, okay, give me your pin that you're using for your hair. He got the pin from that lady and poked his eyes, and both the eyes, so that, you know, he was bruised. He didn't want to do such an activity. He was ashamed. And actually, he was like, why am I getting distracted instead of going towards Krishna? So he didn't want anything to deviate him from Krishna consciousness. So he poked his eyes, he hurt himself, and then now how is he going to go to Vrindavan? Now how is he going to see Krishna? But actually, what happened? Even though he became blind, Krishna had come to take him back to Vrindavan. So Krishna took him by, so that is the potency. Krishna took him by his arms, left him in Vrindavan. Vilvamanga Thakur, even though he couldn't see, but he could feel that it is Krishna who is taking me. So Vilvamanga Thakur was like, so are you going to leave me now? I'm going to complain to your mother. How can you leave me here like this? So it is not like Krishna will leave anybody alone, right? He is always there with us. He will only leave us to test us. Maybe he'll give an opportunity to see, okay, I'm not there. How will you look for me? How will you express your love for me? This Krishna will do. He will test us. But if we show that we are still determined, that we still want to express our love towards him, that's what Vilvamangal Thakur did. What he started doing, he got initiated, right? So he started writing poems glorifying Krishna. In so when one reads his songs, it will be full of Krishna prema. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, by reading Krishna Karnamrita, one can attain or understand the crest jewel who is Krishna. So like that, we find, like, if one is determined to see Krishna, one can see Krishna. If a person who is so fallen can correct themselves and go back to see Krishna, anybody can see Krishna. There is an opportunity. That is why Acharyas teaches chanting, asks us to do some service to purify ourselves, go back home, back to Godhead. So that's what I had to share today. If you have any questions, comments, please do. All good? All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna.